And probably the best things are
Hello,
going to stay the
beautiful
same.
people.
We're going to remind
Welcome
you of that.
to
Plus, hand out some really exclusive,
2024
exciting awards. The 2024 Herb
College Football Live.
Street will
to the
be here
College
to tell
Football
you who is most
Live
deserving there, as well
and
College
as
football.
2024
A lot to get to, so let's roll. As I mentioned,
preseason, sorry,
changes to college
2024
football.
season
First off,
preview.
the college football playoff is expanding from 4 teams to 12 teams, which will include bye weeks for the top 4 conference champions. Many teams on the move. Texas and Oklahoma are off to the SEC, while the Big Ten added 4 teams from the Pac-12. And you'll see some new faces.
And this is presented
3
by
of the 4
EA
teams in
Sports.
last year's
Yeah,
college
this is
football
by
playoff
EA
will have
Sports
new
College
names
Football
in charge.
25.
Everybody got all that? It's kind of a lot, but listen, we'll get through it
Now,
together,
let's
right?
not listen
As
to
we look
this
toward the season
and
and
watch
finally
this
actually
whole
talking
thing.
about some things happening on the field. I'll start with you, Kirk. As you look at the kickoff of college football coming just a few days away, what are you most looking out for?
I think probably everybody's looking
Now,
forward to
let's
this
listen to Kirk
playoff.
Herbstreit. In
And
fact,
how it's
he
gonna
was on the
impact
Pat's
the
McAfee
sport in
show
general.
earlier
You know,
today.
Forever it was 2, and then it went down, it jumped to 4, and we thought, okay, it's going to be there for a while, and then we heard the rumors about 12, and now it's here. And I think after last year's debate about Florida State being left out, Georgia being left out, who are the most deserving, who are the best, here we now get to 12. And I think the excitement now, Greg, would be who are going to be the 4 teams at the end that get the bye, who will be those 5 to 8 who get that home field, which would be bizarre to watch home field playoff football. But I just think this is going to reinvigorate all of college football because everybody's going to think that they have a chance to get up into that top 12.
Well, Kirk, I think you're 100% right. In the games in November, the level of excitement for many teams that have never sniffed a playoff opportunity will elevate drastically. But what I'm most interested in is probably how these teams acclimate to new conferences. The 4 Pac-12 teams in particular that are going into the Big Ten. Oregon, I think, is well-equipped to make that leap. But you look at Washington, you look at USC. The Big Ten has long been a league that's all about the line of scrimmage. Like, if you can't run it, and you're not going to try. That's really different from what we saw in the Pac-12 for a number of years. It was really more of a perimeter league. While they could still play between the tackles, it really wasn't where they made their hay. So that fascinates me. And then Oklahoma and Texas going into the SEC, that's fascinating to me. I think Texas, of course, what they accomplished last year, very well equipped to transition. We've seen them go toe-to-toe against Alabama in Tuscaloosa and get that win. So we're all kind of already on board with them seamlessly transitioning. But what about Oklahoma? This is a program that's really had a whole heck of a lot more consistency and success, Sam, than Texas over the last 2 decades. And yet they're kind of an afterthought during this transition. So I think how new teams acclimate to their new conference
It's a season
is something I'll be paying
preview
close
show.
attention to as well.
Well, and Greg, you'll be paying attention to how teams acclimate. I'll be paying attention to which teams dominate. You talked about 2 specific teams. Number 1, you talked about Texas. Texas cannot afford to 2-step into the SEC. They have to be dominant early. Even before they get into SEC play, they play Michigan in week 2. That'll be a huge test. And then on the other side, a team like Oregon, I understand that Pac-12 hasn't really been a line of scrimmage league, but Oregon is ready. Defensively, one of the best defenses in college football. Offensively, they are loaded. And so I expect both those teams, both Texas going to the SEC and Oregon going to the Big Ten, to not only to acclimate, but to dominate, potentially compete for championships year 1 in their new conferences.
You know, it's hard to talk about this season without referencing last season, but the offseason is important too. Kirk, which team do you think had the best offseason?
I think a lot of people would point to the portal and look probably at a school like Ohio State or even an Ole Miss. I'm going to be specific to Oregon. You lose Bo Nix and all that experience. The guy played more football than anybody probably last year in college football with his career starts at Auburn and then in Eugene over the last couple of years. And you lose that. And you just heard Sam talk about Oregon has real goals of winning not just a potential Big Ten championship in their first year, but maybe making a run at a national championship. And they go out and get a veteran again, and Dylan Gabriel. So I know it's easy to look at those schools that got 4 or 5 or 6 different guys to come in and start and make a difference. That's easy. But I'm going to say Oregon had one of the best off seasons by being able to go out and get a veteran quarterback and bring in Dylan Gabriel to fill the shoes of Bo Nix and keep those goals of trying to win a championship still making those realistic, Greg.
Yeah, I mean, Kirk, out goes the most experienced starting quarterback in the history of college football. In comes a guy that's going to throw for more than 15,000 yards. The rich get richer. It's really amazing. To me, you already referenced it. It'd be easy to go Ohio State, and I think that's a fair place to go. But because they always have expectations, I'm used to seeing Ohio State sitting at 1 or number 2 in the preseason polls. I'm not used to seeing Ole Miss sitting in the top 6. I'm going to move in that direction. I think about how Lane Kiffin is acclimated to this new period and how they've really, at positions of weakness, they've gone out and really attacked those spots. Offensive and defensive lines, they're bigger, they're more physical, they're more equipped to handle the physicality they're going to see in the SEC. So, Sam, I think Ole Miss had the best offseason this year.
Yeah, now it's a matter of can they all play together in the way that Lane Kiffin needs to get them to. Sam, what about a team to beat this year? Can Michigan repeat? Where's your head at there?
Well, it's at the team that everyone said has had the best offseason. It's Ohio State. I think they're the favorite this year, not only because them naming Will Howard their starter at quarterback, they've got that position solidified, but defensively, the one impact transfer that I think will make one of the biggest differences is Caleb Downs. He was a safety at Alabama last year, phenomenal freshman, led the team in tackles, first freshman to do that at Alabama, and now he's starting at safety at Ohio State to go along with Jack Sawyer, JT Tuimoloau, dominant players on that defense. I expect Ohio State to be the team to beat this year.
All right, more from Sam and Greg throughout the show. Also, Heather Dinich joins us in Stanford Steve with everything you need to know in the betting space. But now, the moment we've all been waiting for. It's time for the 2024 Herbie Awards. And this, of course, is Kirk's doing. It's all in that beautiful brain, Kirk. So tell us a little bit more about how exactly you come up with these awards before we start handing them out.
Well, we just, me and a couple guys look at it and get excited like everybody else who's a fan of college football. And we came up with this probably 20 years ago to come up with different categories. Not that ours names are right, but it just makes people start to debate and start to discuss different categories. When we throw, like, who's the best quarterback out there, everybody has their own thought. So it's a good way to get people talking about the sport, getting people excited, start the arguments here early in August, and kind of go from there.
Yeah, 20 or so years, and it never gets old. Let's start with the first award. You ready? It's time for Field General.
Yeah.
Who do we got?
Well, the Field General is the best quarterback in college football. This year, I got to start with Carson Beck, guy that played so well last year, led the SEC in passing, very accurate, really a quick processor. They're going to be relying on his experience. A lot of people thought he would leave, but he decided to come back. How about staying in the SEC? Jackson Dart at Ole Miss. Third year now to be the starter for Ole Miss. Won 11 games last year for Ole Miss. Runs that RPO game, has a great feel for what Lane Kiffin wants to do. Here's a curveball. Preston Stone, SMU. Really like what he can do. 10-2 last year in 23. They were in the American. They're now in the ACC. Look out for these guys. Takes a lot of downfield shots in that Rhett Lashley system. Preston Stone's ready to have a big year in the first year of the ACC.
The Herbie Award for Best Field General goes to Ole Miss quarterback Jackson Dart.
We saw so much success from Jackson Dart last year, and Kirk, they're saying even better already in camp. He's working on those intermediate throws.
Yeah, the transfer from USC from a few years ago, like I said, his third year now is starting. You're right. I think when you play that much football and have that much success, 23 touchdowns, only 5 picks, this is what I like about him. You get down to that red area, especially the low red area, his feet are a factor. Not like Matt Corral, who was always being able to run the football, but he does have enough athletic ability to make the defensive coordinator.
Wow, this is going to last until
opens up the passing game. I expect him again. They won 11 games last year, first time in Ole Miss school history. I think we're all excited to see what Jackson Dart and Ole Miss can do again in 2024.
Yeah, they're not going to surprise anyone this year, but I think they're up for that task. They're sort of embracing the bullseye being on their back a little bit more than it has been. All right, let's go to the other side of the ball. How about a game record on the defense?
Yeah, these are the guys that each week an offensive coordinator sees them and just thinks, oh, man, we got to work around this guy. How about Mason Graham, number 55? I love watching this guy play. Probably my favorite player to watch in the country. And I love putting a big guy in the middle, not just the edge players, when you look at what he can do. Ahmad Hassanin from, just a great player from Boise State. The size of this guy is what stands out to me. 6'3", 271, 12 and a half sacks last year. Number 91 knows how to play the game. And James Pierce, we had to have that edge guy, the guy that just wins with quickness. You go to the SEC. James Pierce last year, best rusher in the sport of college football. Look out for him in Knoxville this
Friday 2 p. Friday 5.
It just seems like everything Mason Graham does is explosive, Kurt.
That's a great word for him. You know, you don't say that often about the big defensive tackles, but you're right. He uses size and especially his quickness and instincts to be a difference maker. That game against Alabama in the semifinal, he took it over, was able to get through and get through some of those seams through the center and guard and make so many plays in the backfield. He can rush the quarterback. The national championship game against Washington, again, a big part of that game. So Brandon Graham, to me, and that entire defensive line, they lost a lot, but the defensive line will be one of the strengths in all the country.
You know, NFL scouts who were watching Michigan's defense from last year, they would get so distracted by Graham, and he wasn't draft eligible yet. And they're like, wait, when can we get this guy? I bet they'll be paying attention this season.
Oh, yeah.
All right, how about some question marks for some contending teams? Title contenders are the biggest questions to answer, Kurt.
Yeah, these are 5 of them. And we're going to start with Alabama. Obviously, Nick Saban, 17 years, 6 national championships, the best coach to ever do it. They also lost a lot of skill around Jalen Milroe. So some new faces. Nick, we're all just anxious to see how that's going to go. Georgia always has talent, but let's face it. On offense, they lost Brock Bowers, Ladd McConkey. They've got new running backs with Trevor Etienne coming over from Florida. So you're going to have some new faces around Carson Beck. And I think the pressure to always have to deal with. For Ohio State, Greg talked about it early. They always have talent, right? They got a new quarterback in Will Howard from Kansas State. But will they develop the chemistry? Will they be the team instead of individuals and the mental toughness it takes to make a run? Can Oregon get over the hump? Last year, so close. Came up a little bit short against Washington twice and got left out of the playoff. Now you lose Bo Nix. You got Dylan Gabriel. Can this be the year that Dan Lanning gets over the hump? And then with Sark, a lot like Alabama and Georgia, a lot of new skill players. Don't forget, not only do you lose Xavier Worthy, you lose the back, Jonathan Brooks. They have an injury to C.J. Baxter. So a new back in Jaden Blue, but some questions there for Texas as well.
The Herbie Award for the biggest question.
We on ESPN2 for this.
Alabama.
This 2024 preview show.
Right?
It's College Football Live.
Yeah, I mean, it's great that he's
And
got
College
Jalen
Football
Milroe
Live.
back. I mean, that helps. And I'm a huge fan of Kalen DeBoer. Anybody who's followed his career knows what he's capable of doing. But you can put anybody into this position, and there's going to be a lot of people watching Alabama say, well, Nick Saban didn't used to do it like that, or Nick Saban didn't used to do that. And I think Kalen DeBoer understands that. And it's just like when Nick Saban left Michigan State and he went down to Baton Rouge. He was an outsider. And those LSU fans at first, they didn't know really how to accept Nick Saban. How did he change that? He won football games. And that's what Kalen DeBoer is going to have to do. Forget about Nick Saban. Forget about Bear Bryant. Forget about all the lore of Alabama football. Be himself, because what he's done has worked for him throughout his career. And just go out and execute and get your team fired up to play and go win football games. And that'll quiet all the noise around the program.
Yeah, Coach Saban, as you know, Kirk, is sensitive to that, too. He has an office in the facility there at Alabama, but really doesn't go to it because he doesn't want to be there too much as a distraction. Instead, he's going to be sitting next to you on College Game Day. A good reminder of what we'll all be excited to see. He's really good at TV. All right, we got more coming your way on our college football preview. Coming up next, Kirk and Heather Dinich are explaining the new college football playoff format, plus more Herbie Awards.
And when we come back, we're looking at the 12.
Active as ever this offseason. Find out which transfer will make the biggest impact with his new team this season when we return.
And we'll be right back.
College Football Live 2024 season preview is presented by EA Sports College Football 25.
That's the game I have. Yeah.